Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Tank12, how you want to call me, I don't really care, and today we're back and we're looking at the E25. Now, this tank is out right now, available as a bundle. It's the 6th of December, this is going to be their Advent tank for today, up until like the 7th of December, so 24 hours. And I decided to make a video about this tank because, well, it has been one of the most controversial tank destroyers and premium tanks that have ever gotten into the game. And to understand why this tank is so controversial, you have to go back a few years. This tank was released, I think, 2013 as a tier 7 premium tank. It hasn't underwent any major changes with stats and stuff like that, but Wargaming have promised to never sell this tank again after that period of time. They took it out of the store. You were unable to pick up E25 anymore. Why is that? Because the E25 is tier for tier, I think, regarding premium tanks, the strongest vehicle at tier 7, at least tank destroyer wise. This is probably one of the strongest premium tank destroyers in the game. And I mean, considering this feat, if we regard the Scorpion G, this is one of the strongest vehicles tier for tier. Now, obviously, that had a lot of people upset because people were able to pick this one up. I got it way back in the days when it was released. I played it, I enjoyed it very, very much. It's one of my premium tanks that I haven't really played a lot in the in my recent memories, up until a few days ago. I haven't really played it for, I think, a half a year or a year even. And you can see why people are kind of upset. It's a very, very powerful vehicle in capable hands. Even not in capable hands, it's a very strong tank. So it's important to keep this in mind with this review, because I was kind of surprised that they resell this tank right now again. And it makes me kind of worried right now with their market practice, since they actually promised to not sell this tank. That kind of shows you how much they weigh on that promise. So that is weird. Let's keep that in mind. So why is the E25 so strong? Regarding it does have a tier 6 gun. So the very first thing you'll notice with this vehicle is that it is very, very small. Its profile is very, very sleek and very, very low. If we compare it to the SC100, also a very low tank, the E25 is by a big margin lower. Like, it's a smaller vehicle. Regarding the AMX CDA, also a very small tank. It's even smaller. Obviously, it's a tier 7, but it's one of those tanks that can go very, very well undercover. You can see that with my stats on concealment. But before we move on, let's take a look at the firepower first. So you're getting a 75mm gun that is actually a tier 6 gun that was on the Panzer IV tier 5 tank back in the days. And it is one of those guns that just has very bad pen. And that is very unusual for premium tank destroyers. Usually premium tank destroyers do have quite decent pen. 150mm of pen, since it's only a 75mm gun. 20 rounds per minute rate of fire. Like, just imagine that. I have a 23.18 round per minute average, so that it's a reload time of 2.59 seconds. That is a DPM machine. This is a DPM beast on my side. I have 3,129 average damage per minute, just to keep that in mind. So then we move on. Average damage, not very high, 135 HP worth of damage per shot. You have the APCR rounds with 194mm of pen. Not that great, increase in penetration, but yeah, keep that in mind. Dispersion at 100 meters, 0.3. It's a very, very accurate tank. Very accurate tank. It's tank destroyer, and I have a 0.929 dispersion at 100 meters. Aim time 1.5 seconds. I got that down to 1.3 seconds. And a gun traverse, actually a gun arc and traverse speed of 45.89 degrees per second. It's a decent gun arc, nothing too great to write home about. And a gun depression of 8 degrees and gun elevation of 15 degrees. So yeah, this is, statistics wise on a gun, it's very, very competitive at tier 6 and even tier 7, but you'll be facing tier 9 and tier 8 vehicles and tier 7 vehicles, obviously. So how does a 150mm gun work in those scenarios? It doesn't work very well because 150mm is not able to penetrate a lot. So survivability, 830 hit points. That is regarding a premium tank. HP wise, if we take a look at the Steyr Waffenträger, it's good. It's more than the Steyr by 30 hit points. 50mm of frontal armor, 30 on the side, 30 on the rear. Not well armored at all, and that it's not supposed to be. It's a light tank, like it's a light tank destroyer, and it's very mobile. And it's very well camouflaged. So mobility wise, this is one of the key strong points of this tank. 65 kilometers forward, 20 kilometers backwards. So this is like on the level of a scout tank. Incredibly fast vehicle. I could even look if I would let's actually retrain this crew skill right here really fast, just to get the maximum amount of this vehicle, because I didn't really train Brothers in Arms on that crew yet. And if we look at the firepower right now, it's 2.53 rounds per minute. Okay, it's not going to be that much better, but still 3,200 DPM. Very, very good. So mobility wise, it's a very fast tank. If you compare it to let's say light tanks, it's in the top league. The T49 is 65 kilometers hours fast. It's faster than the new T92 premium light tank, and its traverse speed with 48.42 degrees per second is very, very competitive. So a tank that is meant to be moving around and is meant to be hidden. If we take a look at my statistics on concealment, this is one of my best or the best concealed vehicles that I actually have in the game. It's so strong, and it will just really, if you're not moving this tank around in a bush, you'll be able to hide it very, very well. Yeah, keep that in mind. Spotting, not too great. I think I should definitely, if you want to spot for yourself, you should definitely pick binos. That makes a huge difference with view range, obviously, and you can train your crew for that as well. So what is the hype all about with this vehicle? Well, it's just the amazing damage potential that you have, and the mobility and the concealment that allow you to just do so much damage. If we take a look at the gameplay afterwards, I'll see that I have two gameplays prepared for you guys, because the first one is a very aggressive kind of gameplay, and the second one I will see that is a nicely hidden ambush kind of gameplay, which you'll see in this E25 quite a lot. It will show you just how capable of a machine this is and why people are upset that they're selling it again. So without further ado, let's jump right into the games. So we'll start off with the first map and the first game. We're playing on Stalingrad, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Stalingrad. Just forgot the name. And we are going to be very aggressive in this kind of game, since we are almost top tier. There are 3 tier 8 vehicles, but the rest are just tier 7s and tier 6 tanks. And you'll just see why people are moaning about this vehicle coming back into the game, because it does just have that nice little DPM that tears apart any vehicle at this tier and tier 7. And you will see what I mean by just watching this kind of gameplay. I mean, you'll see the amazing speed of this vehicle. Oops, was not normal speed. Now it's normal replay speed. And you can just see how fast this tank goes up all the way to 65 kilometers. It's small, it's compact, it's fast, and it does sport a very, very competitive gun against these lower tier tanks. Now, obviously, since it's so badly armored, artillery will like to pummel you, and as that is no real surprise, this is going to happen in this game. It's going to happen to you if you're playing this tank. Just not enough armor, and you can see the very first hit already almost conceded by us, by the artillery. I think it was an M44. That M12 would have done some more extensive damage. And what you can see right now is just how quickly this tank reloads, how quickly it aims, how quickly the circle really closes itself, and it's a thing of beauty, you know. It's kind of so imbalanced, and you can see the 150 millimeters of penetration are more than enough. You're more than enough capable of, you know, penetrating that M6 at this tier, and just with this rate of fire, you're able to do so much damage. You're shredding through these targets. Now, luckily for us, the enemy team is kind of playing a bit aggressive. They're trying to get this AMX 1375, and you can just see how quickly we finish off this Type 64 light tank. Tier 6 light tank, for that matter. After just a few minutes, now obviously the enemy team didn't really play that well. We're already at 1,400 damage plus 230 additional damage, spotting damage, excuse me. But we have to say, like, my team was far superior regarding map control. We pushed the right side, kind of abandoned the left side, since this tank is not made for frontline engagements. This was kind of a big no-go that you usually don't do. You know, you usually don't sit in the front with this tank and go out brawling. That's usually what you don't do, but I do enjoy playing like that. But most of the time it's not very rewarding, especially if you're playing tank destroyers. And what you can see right here, one of the big cons is just this tank is not good at shooting and driving at the same time. I don't know where that one went actually, and yeah, artillery still manages to put a 201 damage shot into us. But the 830 HP, I think it's more than enough. It's a nice amount of hit points. Gives you a little bit of a leeway, you know, to take some hits sometimes. When they spot you, you can actually drive away. Obviously, when you're facing like tier 8 vehicles, that HP goes down very, very quickly once you're spotted. But if you have the side, like I do have the rear and the side of this T26 E4 or Super Pershing and the STRB S1, you can see just how quickly you can make this 150 millimeters of pen work with your 75 millimeter gun. Now, that is exactly what I meant with do not show yourself like, don't be too open, because that KV5 took a shot at us and we're only at 242 HP. Now it's pretty much, we already had a good game, 2340 HP, dealt some assistance damage, and we're still alive. So that's pretty much, for me, that is a very good game in the E25. But as you can see, it's not over yet. The 150 millimeters of pen do get like the limitations here with the KV5, but still, if you get the C2D2 turret on the side, on the front of the KV5, you'll be able to penetrate that vehicle. So 2,623 damage dealt and 3 kills in a tier 8 match. Not too bad, not too bad. This is a very aggressive kind of game that I had in my E25, and I'd say let's jump over to a little bit more passive gameplay in this vehicle. For you guys is on the map Abbey, and you can see it's a similar constellation to the very first game, but this time we're going to be a little bit more passive, at the beginning at least. What a lot of people like to do when they're in light or medium tanks on this map is that they like to rush the Abbey, as this map is called Abbey. If you have the middle, it's quite the power spot, but at the same time it's a very dangerous kind of balancing act of, you know, getting the peaks and at the same time not be too overly aggressive. and risking getting shot by this position right here. This is a position that tank destroyers usually love to play, and you'll see just why. As you can see, we have quite a few tanks going into the middle. Unfortunately, we bounced the Cromwell B, tier 6 American premium vehicle. It's a British tank, I know, but I think it's the American. Cromwell B is like the Cromwell Berlin. No, actually, it's not American. It's still the British version, I think. I'm not entirely sure right now, but that doesn't really matter. And you can see that we get a few shots in. We get spotted by the Cromwell over there, 285 meters, but it was a little bit stupid, a stupid play or stupid decision by me. But you can see once I pull back into the cover of the bush, behind the bush, I'm able to do a lot of damage to this Cromwell. And the DPM allows me just to tear apart that tier 6 vehicle, and I think that guy did not have a lot of fun playing that one match. And that is just one of the things that you have to keep in mind with this vehicle. A lot of times people will not be able to spot you or see you when you have like a great spot, and well, you can tear them a complete new one. And that is just the reason why people are upset that this vehicle is getting back. So how do you counter this kind of gameplay or vehicle? Well, it's very difficult to counter this this kind of behavior. This spot right here is a very well-known spot, at least in World of Tanks. If you've played a few matches, you'll know that most of the time tank destroyers will use this position here to get some shots off into the middle. But you know, if you're new to the game, it's all kind of frustrating. And it's just not a lot of fun when you're facing a tier 7 vehicle that just has like 3 times the DPM that you have. I totally understand the frustration on that kind of side. But yeah, let's focus on how or what I'm going to be doing next. So the 1-2 line has completely been abandoned by my team. We don't know what the enemy team has on that line currently. But I decided to play it a little bit more aggressively, since I do have the mobility, I do have quite a lot of hit points still remaining, and I can maybe do some damage right here, you know, do some work. So we spot the AT7. I'm not sure, I don't think I spotted it, but somebody on my team spotted that vehicle. And unfortunately, I completely forgot that I was lit previously. So I decided to, you know, fall back and get behind some cover. And you can see that we still managed to penetrate that AT7. And that is just how accurate this tank is. You're most of the time not going to be missing your shots because you have an aim time of 1.5 seconds and the accuracy of 0.29 dispersion at 100 meters. That is pretty damn crazy. And I just bounced the shot from the AT7 on my rear, and it like went right into the building. So yeah, that's just how good this tank is. But once you're facing vehicles with more armor, like this WZ-111 1FT, you're going to be having a tough time with penetrating that thick armor of that vehicle or any other very thickly armored vehicle. But if you have the weak spots, you'll still be able to do quite a lot of damage, you know, to make the 150 millimeters of pen work to your favor, or in your favor. And what you can see right here is, well, once again, we are at 1,717 damage, 600 spotting damage, and we managed to, yeah, get around the map quite easily with the mobility that we have. But the big weak spot of this tank, the lack of armor, and once you get spotted, there is pretty much nothing you can do in regards of protection. You will probably not bounce a lot of shells, maybe a few lower pen rounds. And what you can see, what you can do with this vehicle against the OHO, that is another very nice feat that this tank has, is that you can just get into the side of the vehicle and stay there because he does not have the gun depression and you actually do not have a huge profile. So he's never going to be able to shoot me, since my tank is so small that he actually always will shoot over me, except if he will go onto a ridgeline and, you know, shoot downwards. And that is the sad story of an extremely overpowered tier 7 vehicle, the E25. I have to say, it's extremely, like, funny tank to play. It's so fast. It just gets these important characteristics right that make a tank destroyer so much fun to play. It's fast. It's very versatile with, you know, with the camouflage, and the 150 millimeters of pen might be quite the problem for few players, but still you can make it work with the 75 millimeter gun. And once you have these low tiers on the enemy side, you can pretty much just tear them apart. You have the DPM, you have 3200 DPM. That's just so much power in one vehicle combined, and that is the reason why people are upset, and I totally understand their standpoint. So why am I making this video? Well, it's not a big surprise that Wargaming are actually selling a E25. I may have said it was a big surprise at the beginning, but regarding it back now, it's not a big surprise, since they actually have sold it a few times before, and it looks like Wargaming are really a bit too centered around profit making. Regarding this, is one of the tanks that actually has been one of the most disliked vehicles at tier 7 if you have to play against it, and one of the most liked vehicles at tier 7 if you're playing it. And yeah, there was no real solution to this kind of problem. Not selling it, well, Wargaming are just simply not going to be doing that. To you know, exclude it from the game will make a lot of people angry that already own it. Nothing like that is going to happen. Nerfing it will just create a huge problem with the community. It's kind of a vicious cycle right now. So yeah, I just want to point it out that it is in the premium store, that you have to keep in mind what you're facing when you're playing like against this vehicle, and what you get when you're playing this tank when you get it. So is it worth, like, if you're playing it, is it worth the money? Well, it is worth the money just because it's so strong, but is it worth, you know, the frustration on both sides, like the players who have to play against it? Now, not every game is going to be like this. You're not going to be having like 2K games every game. You're not going to be facing super strong E25s every round, but you know, it's just the capability that it does have this raw potential that is there, and once people actually unlock this raw potential, it might be extremely unfair. It is actually extremely unfair. So yeah, so what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to look at the bundle, and then we're going to make a final verdict right now.